Today is Holy Thursday, and this evening we will celebrate the Mass of the Lord's Supper. We will read the Gospel from John, chapter 13, verses 1 through 15. And so in preparation, may we sit here and spend just a few moments reflecting on what this reading means to us. What does the Spirit want us to hear today? And so as we begin, imagine yourself at the Last Supper with Jesus. Imagine yourself listening to his preaching, to his teaching. Imagine yourself around the table. The Gospel of John. Before the feast of Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to pass from this world to the Father. He loved his own in the world, and he loved them to the end. The devil had already induced Judas, son of Simon the Iscariot, to hand him over. So during supper, fully aware that the Father had put everything into his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God, he rose from supper, took off his outer garments. For just a moment, let us pause and enter into the character of Jesus. Jesus knew this was the beginning of the absolute end. He knew that it was time for him to leave this world and to be rejoined with God. He knew that Judas would be handing him over. Imagine yourself in that position. The weight of the world resting on top of you. The heaviness of knowing this is the end. But yet, that feeling of maybe not knowing if the rest of them all have gotten everything you needed to pass on. And so how will you pass on what needs to be said yet tonight in this dinner, in this time around the table? What can I do to help my disciples to know, to trust, to have hope? Imagine yourself as Jesus, or imagine yourself as one of the disciples witnessing this inner dialogue in Jesus. We've all seen that person who is struggling with some heavy stuff in their life. But through the grace of God, handles it in a way that maybe we couldn't imagine ourselves. That is how I would see Jesus. How about you? As you watch Jesus at the beginning of this supper, knowing what he knows, imagine him. He took a towel and tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and dry them with the towel around his waist. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Master, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered and said to him, "What I am doing you do not understand now, but you will understand later." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered him, "Unless I wash you, you will have no inheritance with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Master, then not only my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus said to him, "Whoever has bathed has no need except to have his feet washed, for he is clean all over. So you are clean, but not all." For he knew who would betray him, and for this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." So when he had washed their feet and put his garments back on and reclined at table, he said to them, "Do you realize what I have done for you? You call me teacher and master, and rightly so, for indeed I am. If I, therefore, the master and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet. I have given you a model to follow, so that as I have done for you, you should also do." Take some time to imagine yourself as Peter or as one of the disciples, as Jesus goes around the room and washes feet one by one. We hear the conversation between Peter and Jesus. Was the rest of the time in silence? Or did Jesus have a conversation with each disciple? Did each of them have some sort of dialogue? Or did he teach as he went? Or was it purely silent? Imagine yourself there. And as Jesus comes to you, the beloved disciple, and he washes your feet, does he speak? Does he just wash, paying close attention to every spot on your feet? Do you feel his touch as he washes and dries your feet? How do you feel? What's rising up within you as Jesus kneels in front of you and washes your feet. And continue to imagine yourself sitting there after Jesus has washed your feet and has moved on and washed each and every disciple's feet. What is the atmosphere in the room? How are people feeling? Is there a silence that has come over the room? Is there conversation that is happening? How do you feel as Jesus continues going around the room? Is there a sense of comprehension of what he is doing and why? Because when Jesus sits down, he reminds the disciples that what he has done was to be a model for you to follow. And he says, I, the master and teacher, have washed your feet. You ought to wash one another's feet. What does this mean? What does this mean in your life? As you listen to those words, and as you have just imagined Jesus washing your feet, how, what, where, who do you go out and wash the feet? Jesus, you are our companion. You are the teacher and the master. We know and understand you as we in today's world look back upon your teachings. Yet the people of your day did not always comprehend or understand what you were teaching or where this would lead them. We too struggle at times knowing where you are leading us. But we trust in your companionship, for we know we have no doubt in the resurrection. On this evening, as you are washing the feet of your disciples, there may have been doubts or questions yet within your disciples. of what this all meant, where this would all take them. Yet it took them through your death and your resurrection to new life. You and your resurrected body and your disciples in becoming the teacher. So Lord, as I sit here today, as we sit here today and relive, recount the Passion, as we recount that Last Supper, may we too also be open to where you are leading us, where you are guiding us, where the resurrection will happen in our own life as well, but that we can grow in greater love with you as we look and we see and we know your death and your resurrection. We know the end of the story. And so we can trust. We can trust in you and where you are guiding our lives. Unlike the disciples who had not known the end of the story yet, Lord, guide us. Guide us through your passion and your death this weekend as we come to celebrate your resurrection. Help us to recognize those resurrections within ourselves all year round. Continue to lead us and guide us as we enter into your death and your resurrection. Amen.